Good afternoon, everyone. Oki Dadanastada Ambawastich and Tanse. I'm joined by Calgary Fire Department Chief Steve Dongworth, as well as Chief of Community Standards, Ryan Plakaitis. As you may have heard this morning, yesterday we used up our sustainable threshold of 480 million litres of water. And while that was a slight reduction from the day before, we still have to do better. We must do better to make sure that fire hydrants can still help firefighters, and we must do better to make sure that hospitals and schools can remain open. We must do better to use less water, plain and simple. If our water usage continues to trend up and our water supply can't keep pace, our taps will run dry. You and I, we cannot give up on our water conservation efforts while the 2-meter wide feeder main is being repaired. Overnight on Wednesday and into part of yesterday, crews paused their work due to an on-site injury. There were 2 workers who were taken to hospital to be treated, and they are currently recovering from their injuries. We are incredibly grateful to these 2 folks for all the work that they've done on this project, and we are thinking of them as they recover. Occupational Health and Safety gave the go-ahead to return to welding yesterday, which was the work that the safety incident team was reviewing. Now, as you've heard, city crews have sent robots equipped with sensors into the pipe, and they've now scanned more than 4 kilometers of the feeder main. I understand that there are developments coming out of our water team, and they are meeting on those findings from the robots right now. We will have a technical update at 5 p.m. today from the Emergency Operations Center with more details. For an update on the city's firefighting efforts during this water crisis, I'm going to pass it over to Calgary Fire Chief Steve Dongworth.
Thank you very much, Mayor Gondek. So throughout the water main break, the Calgary Fire Department has been actively engaging in planning and operations discussions with the Emergency Operations Centre and our own Fire Tactical Operations Centre. We have multiple non-hydrant firefighting strategies, including plans, personnel, apparatus, alternate water sources and equipment in place. We've developed very comprehensive plans and alternative operating procedures to supplement water supply if necessary, and are fully confident in our ability to manage fire and emergency events during this situation. Calgarians can remain confident that the Calgary Fire Department will be there for them, as we always are, to provide the highest level fire protection possible. We have robust plans in place to supplement the water system as needed, and we are confident in the ability to be able to manage fire and emergency response accordingly. Water Services is providing up-to-date hydrant reliability maps to fire daily throughout this event, and this is critical to the strategies established by Calgary Fire Department. They're also supplying us with reservoir levels and many other indicators of performance within their system. Beyond that, if hydrant supply is unavailable, every one of our fire engines has a tank supply of 2,500 litres of water. We have 4 tenders, which are water tankers in plain language, which carry between 7,000 and 11,000 litres of water each, staged strategically throughout the city. Many kilometres of high-volume hose are available, and large portable water pools are part of our everyday inventory. The Calgary Fire Department can draft or lift water from static water locations, including rivers, which have been determined and mapped in every district of the city. From these drafting locations, crews can either shuttle water to the fire location or relay pump, which is a series of fire engines connected by hose, from the static water location through high-volume hose to the fire. Calgary Fire Department also has agreements with mutual aid partners to assist in water delivery via water trucks. The Calgary Fire Department has forestry helicopter and water bombers on standby to respond from the air to any large-scale events where that becomes necessary. I know there have been questions about the fire in Woodbine and how much water was used to respond to extinguish that fire, I beg your pardon. That was a second alarm fire, to remind folks. And our estimate, we used about 100,000 litres of water. The fire was well developed. When we were notified, there were multiple calls to 911, which indicates that it was already well underway when we were called and when we arrived. En route to the call, the first arriving engine called a second alarm, which essentially means more resources, double the number of resources are sent to the scene, based on visible smoke that was observed before arriving. We had the amount of water needed to respond to this fire. Water availability was not a factor in this fire response. We had the water we needed to put the fire out. The main factor contributing to the severity of this fire was that it was already well underway when we were called. Every fire is different, and many factors contribute to how much water we need on each call. To ensure the safety of Calgarians, we are urging you to continue to conserve water so that this remains true while the water main repair work, continues. Thus far, hydrant supply has been sufficient to extinguish every Calgary Fire Department fire, or fire that the Calgary Fire Department has attended, I guess I should say, in the past week. We've also worked on a number of other scenarios in terms of estimating the amount of fire we would need, right from a garage fire up to something like the Earlton fire, and we're confident in the water supply across the city. I would just say that we're very confident with the amount of water we have. We have plans in place, and I've got to tell you how proud I am of the members of the Calgary Fire Department. They've literally scoped out every opportunity across this city to access water supplies where we can actually get equipment close enough to the river, to lakes, community lakes, and to other open water supplies, which is has been an incredible effort. And we have all of that mapped. All of that is shared with every crew, so every crew knows what their options are if they're faced with a fire and there is any kind of challenge with the hydrant supply. Calgary Fire Department is adding to the effort to conserve water. We've postponed our regularly scheduled spring hydrant testing until water supply and service is fully restored across the city, and we're only washing our equipment and apparatus when necessary for safety purposes. And of course, we are also adhering to the Stage 4 water restrictions in terms of the water we use within the fire stations. I would just like to make a final reminder to Calgarians. Please continue to be vigilant as far as things you can do to prevent fires within the City of Calgary. This also will prevent us taking more water than is necessary from the supply. So please keep up those efforts. Watch what you're doing when you're cooking. Stay with the food you're cooking. Watch how you're disposing of smokeless materials, and take great care when you're out in parkland areas in terms of any opportunity that may start a fire. Particularly, we find people, again, dispose of smoking materials carelessly at times, which can lead to pretty demanding fires from our perspective, particularly if the wind is howling at that time. So again, thanks to everyone for conserving water. And with that, I'll hand over to Chief Plakaitis from Community Services.
Thank you, Chief Dongworth, and good afternoon, everyone. I do have a very brief update on the work that our peace officer team is doing to ensure compliance with the Stage 4 water restrictions. First off, before I get into the numbers, I do want to thank the overwhelming majority of Calgarians for doing their part to conserve water. We would be in a much different and dire situation if not for your efforts, so thank you. As for the work of our peace officers have been carrying out for the past week, we've received to date over 1,500 service requests. The majority of those are citizen complaints for individuals not adhering to the Stage 4 water restrictions. To date, we've issued over 900 warnings and 2 tickets for what I would describe as egregious or excessive use of water while working through this crisis. I'll remind folks that the penalty for an offense under the water utility bylaw for a Stage 4 water restriction is proportionate to the severity of the offense, and it's a specified penalty of $3,000. Our goal is, of course, to gain compliance without having to resort to enforcement action, but I would expect that these numbers around tickets would increase if prior warnings are not adhered to, or if our peace officers come across a blatant use or waste of water. Additionally, we have received 98 calls about illegal fire pits, which have led to 41 verbal warnings, 13 written warnings, and 1 ticket is being issued to 1 individual. As a reminder, please no outdoor water use at this time. This includes washing vehicles outdoors, washing driveways or walkways, filling up pools, hot tubs or fountains, and watering your garden and lawn. If you have an irrigation system that runs off a timer, I would remind you that it needs to be turned off to avoid any penalty. We do have rain in the forecast for this weekend, which I'm sure will help with yard and garden maintenance. And finally, for the full list of Stage 4 water restrictions or for more information on the water utility bylaw, please visit calgary.ca. If you need to register a complaint or if you have an inquiry, you can do so through 311 or by using the 311 hand app. Thank you all again for your continued efforts as we work through this situation. And now I'll turn it back to Mayor Gondek.
Thank you very much to both of you for clarifying what's happening in your areas of operation. And as Chief Dongworth has said, there was enough water coming from the hydrants to address the situations that they've had to deal with over the last week. And he and I both encourage you to keep up saving water so we can make sure those hydrants are working. Now, while households are using about 2/3 of the water in our system, we know that more than 700 of the largest businesses that we have in the city are also using water, and they have implemented water-saving measures. Pet stores have been closing their washing bays. We know that bottling plants are using less water, and we know that on construction sites, crews aren't using potable water or drinking water to mitigate dust, and NMAX has also reduced its water usage. And communities like Strathmore, Chestermere, Tsuut'ina Nation, and Airdrie are all doing their best as well to conserve water. This morning, we heard from Airdrie Mayor Peter Brown about how much they were reducing, and he also reminded us again that reducing by 1/4 is absolutely not a burden. It is something that we should be able to do. Now, yesterday I asked for your suggestions on other ways that we could reduce water usage, and here are some more tips from fellow Calgarians. If you need a shower, try the Navy shower. This approach is basically getting in and soaking down, turning the water off, lathering up, and then turning the water back on to do a quick rinse off. You could also use dry shampoo and baby wipes on the days that you are skipping showers. If you need to wash your hair and dry shampoo isn't cutting it, try using a pail and a cup. You could also make one-pot dishes or no-pot meals in your kitchens, and you could do things like making sandwiches or barbecuing, and you could eat off compostable dishes. You can also use unsalted pasta water or water that's used to rinse off rice to water your plants. And how about when we used to run our taps until the water got cold or hot enough to use? A really good alternative is to keep a jug of water in the fridge so the water is cold and ready to go, and you can boil a kettle of water to add hot water to any basins that you're using. Now, with rain in the forecast, it is a fantastic opportunity to collect some of that rainwater for your plants. You can put out your big Rubbermaid tubs or any buckets that you have if you don't have a rain barrel at home. And make sure that you take your indoor plants and put them outdoors so they can soak up some of that rain this weekend as well. I will tell you that I've been doing this. You can put a Post-it note on the flush handle of your toilets to remind you that you don't have to flush if you don't need to. We're all human beings, and human beings are creatures of habit. And sometimes you just need a little reminder to skip that habit. So if a Post-it is all it takes to get you to flush a little bit less, that's a great option. And I'm going to give you some really valuable information. If every household in Calgary holds off on one flush per day, that's 12 million liters of water saved. So we could save 12 million liters of water if all of our households just did one less flush. So I'm going to say if we all did 3 less flushes in our households, we would be back to the low water usage that we saw on Saturday last week, where we were in very good shape. We can do this, everybody. You've been sharing your ideas, you've been sharing your best practices, and I think that's really encouraged us because we know we're doing this together. And it's going to keep our water levels at a safe supply that we all need right now during this feeder main restoration. And finally, another reminder that it's Father's Day this weekend. So I have a message for all of the dads out there. You've got permission this weekend to skip a shower and a shave, and we will follow your lead. You can lead us by example, and we'll make sure that we're doing our part to ensure that all of our communities have enough water. With that, another reminder that Chief Sue Henry and the city's operations teams will have more to tell you about what the robot has uncovered in its scans of the feeder main, and that's coming at 5 o'clock. It will be at the Emergency Operations Center. I look forward to joining you there, and I will see you at 8:30 tomorrow morning on Saturday for the live feed as well. Thank you all for being such good water stewards.